Hello, everybody. Today is another Sunday, June 25th, and this is a week 26 update, a legal update in the historic lawsuit Targeted Justice v. Garland. And as every week, with me today, as every Sunday, my co-pilot, a legal genius, a genuinely nice person you'll ever meet, Anna Toledo, Esquire. Welcome to the shows, Anna.
Good morning. Good morning, Len. Good morning, Derrick. Thank you for having me and thank you for your kind words.
You'll
Ready
be
to report.
you'll be here every Sunday. I have a feeling. And our special guest today is someone who is well known and loved by our community, whose dedication to our cause cannot be underestimated. The founder of Pacts International, Derrick Robinson. Welcome to the Sunday Show, Derrick.
Good morning, Len. Good morning, Anna. Thank you guys for having me here today. It's a pleasure to be here.
It really is a pleasure. We have been having so much good feedback about our Sunday shows. And I think that we should start naming our weekly updates just beyond the week numbers. For example, last week, we had a special guest, James Martinez, one of MKUltra whistleblowers. And the show received high marks from you, our viewers, both targeted and not, or as we call it, Americans. If I were to name last week's show, I would think about what stood out to me the most. I think it was the lack of individual responsibility. And let me explain what I mean by that. It's the idea that although the Congress officially shut down MKUltra and COINTELPRO, it continued in some repackaged form up to this day because none of the government operatives were punished personally. So how is that after revealing what we consider the most scandalous, inconceivably inhumane program in the history of our country, that were no legal consequences for the people implementing it at all the highest level of the government? That's why I would call that past show, last week's show, the personal responsibility. And I think that since we're starting naming the shows, I will at the end I will ask both Anna and Derrick what stood out to them the most today, and as well you'll get to hear from me. And you, our viewers, please tell us in the comment section if you agree or disagree. Let's make it interesting. So with that in mind, let's take a look at this week's revelations. Anna, please take it away.
Yeah, well, contrary to last week that we didn't have any filings. This week I have 3 filings. One of them is the most important one, which is the opposition to individual capacity defendants motion to dismiss. And I also filed yesterday and a position to the extension of time that they filed to reply to my reply, and a motion requesting judicial notice of what entails the state secret privilege. And I'm going to explain that in a little while, but I'll summarize. I'll summarize about each one as in non-legal terms as possible. The opposition to the motion to dismiss, I'm going to explain the Bivens, the main defendants, the public officials that were brought in their official capacity and in their individual capacity. They were brought in their individual capacity under this case, as I mentioned, called Bivens, which is the federal equivalent of the Civil Rights Act, but it only applies, the Supreme Court has stated that it's an implied cause of action deriving from the Constitution, and they have only applied it in the context of the Fourth Amendment, which is the unreasonable searches and seizure, the Fifth Amendment, and the Eighth Amendment, which is the cruel prohibition against cruel and unusual punishments. You read the motions. Do you have an assessment regarding what you read?
Oh, yes, I have plenty of questions. One of them was actually against about Bivens claims, because we people who are not so legally inclined, we're not really familiar with the term. So I was trying to summarize it in plain English, and I was going to ask you if I got the meaning correctly. So first of all, when you refer to Bivens, you're referencing an actual 1971 Supreme Court case, Bivens versus 6 unknown federal narcotics agents. And the case, you're right, is about the Fourth Amendment, specifically protection from unnecessary search and seizure. And yet, despite the importance of this right, there is no federal statute authorizing judicial remedy for those whose Fourth Amendment right were violated, and to punish those who violate this fundamental right. So to summarize, Bivens means Fourth Amendment protection. Later, it was also applied to other amendments. Did I get it right, Anna?
Well, yeah, sort of. Bivens is the federal equivalent to the Civil Rights Act. The Civil Rights Act applies to state officials acting under color of state law and violating people's civil rights. All of them that derive from statutes or the Constitution. The Supreme Court, you very well said, Congress has not authorized a specific statute contemplating damages to people whose by federal officials have been violated like this. So the Supreme Court has been very careful since Bivens. They've only expanded Bivens, they call it new context, to the Fifth and Eighth Amendments, and the court has been very cautious, saying that courts should not freely expand the meaning of Bivens, and that's what defendants in our case are saying. No, you're asking for the court to expand it to never before contemplated remedies under Bivens. Now, the first thing we have to agree upon is that this case presents issues that have never before, not only not being before courts, but also never imagined. Because who would have imagined that the most important law enforcement agency in the nation and the largest in the world would select innocent civilians to illegally place them in a terrorist database for purposes other than what the database was created for. So we are asking the court, first of all, yes, some of the claims that plaintiffs have are within the Bivens definition that already the court within the Fourth Amendment. For example, everything that is an unreasonable search and seizure is included in there. Plaintiffs have had their houses and their property illegally searched and seized, their stuff stolen, their electronic communications hacked. So that all of that is within the purview of the Fourth Amendment. And we, delineate how, the court should go into that. There's also the question, we reply to the question of standing. They sort of talked about how, the fantastical allegations, now they added a new word, bizarre. And so we replied to that saying, the Supreme Court already stated that being labeled as a terrorist or a suspected terrorist, and that information published to third parties causes inherent damages. We know that it is the dissemination to tens of thousands of law enforcement and private corporations and individuals of this information that causes irreparable harm to plaintiffs, TJ members, and others situated like them every day. So that is why we urge the court especially to deny the extension of time that they asked to reply to my motion, because every day hundreds of thousands of people in the United States are suffering irreparable harm. So that's basically, you know, the Bivens. We also replied to the national security allegations that this case might present national security issues. Now, you know, I never stopped reading, even though I had submitted my motion. It came to my hands a memorandum regarding national security. And the truth is that it doesn't apply in this case, because the United States Supreme Court has said that the only circumstances where national security is relevant or is involved is when there's military secrets. And that's clearly not the case here. The case is called U.S. versus Reynolds. That's one of the motions that we asked yesterday the court to take judicial notice of that case. And also because when a party is supposed to is invoking the national security defense, they're supposed to do it under a precept called a state secrets, and that has a list of requirements that the defendants didn't comply with here either. So I'm not gonna, you know, just bore you with the technicality of it. I just want to tell you that if 1 week ago I was very confident that we were going to be free in 2023, this week I'm even more confident, because the law and the you know, policies are in place to you know, support our position. I want to play a clip I sent you.
Sounds to me as if the reverse is happening. They're generating the response because of a political need to make that quote-unquote threat the biggest. Is that a good summary, Mr. Friend?
Yes, it's the self-licking ice cream cone. They come up with a solution and look for a problem to apply it to, and they personally benefit from that in the amount of $30,000 to $50,000 when you get to the senior executive level. That is heavily based on compensation is based on incentives.
I don't have anything else to say, because the motion is 30 pages, and if I go into it, you know, it's a lot. I do want to say that today I am so much more confident than I was 3 days ago that we will accomplish our goal, without losing sight of Targeted Justice newsletter. I think it was yesterday or the day before, that we are very clear that regardless of what happens here, whether we prevail or not, completely or partially, whatever, we know the government will seek you know, an appeal, or plaintiffs will, for whatever part they're not satisfied with, and we will get probably to the Supreme Court, because we're never going to give up. Now, the government should, you know, reassess if they were caught, if the cat is out of the bag. I think it's time for atonement. I think it's time for reparations and for apologies, and that's what should happen, because there's no turning back. The information is out, and there's no concealing this atrocious, horrible event of American history. There's no hiding it. This is a Holocaust. This is the equivalent of our German Holocaust.
Anna, thank you very much for that explanation. I totally agree that this is as close to a Holocaust as it gets. And I have relatives who died in the Holocaust, and I have relatives who survived the Holocaust. And I don't think a lot of Americans understand what targeted individuals go through, the torture, the pain and the disappointment in your own government. But we will educate you. I do have several questions for you. First of all, I'm trying to make this legal case more acceptable. So, for example, and I think we're getting a great lesson from you, Anna, in the judicial system and the constitutional rights. But sometimes it just gets very overwhelming and hard to digest. And I'm trying to simplify the terminology used whenever it's possible. For example, when you say individual capacity defendants, it sounds quite abstract. So I call it Garland and the gang. What do you think about that, Anna? Can I use that term?
Well, you're certainly free to use it because it's your First Amendment right. Attorneys, we have our First Amendment right is a little curtailed by our rules of ethics, but I can tell you this much. Here's the difference. Official capacity means that we're going against their actions, in their official capacity, and basically the government is liable for their official capacity actions. Okay, if there's a judgment for their actions in their official capacity, it's the government. Individual capacity means that they're personally liable. We're asking to make them personally liable. They have a vested interest in the case, because if the government didn't have money to pay, well, we can go against their assets, their personal assets. And that's what it means. It means that also one very important aspect that they raised was qualified immunity. Well, it is our argument. Qualified immunity does not apply when you are clearly violating an established law or precept of law. It is clearly established that you cannot put a non-terrorist in a terrorist database. First of all, Homeland Security Presidential Directive number 6, which created the list, doesn't contemplate it. It's also a violation of the Privacy Act to be placing people there falsely and disseminating that information. There's just a lot of violations that I can think of. So yeah, it's clearly illegal. It's clearly illegal to designate somebody as and that's why those whistleblowers are out there as a terrorist when they're not. So that's why we're saying immunity doesn't apply here. And they're saying, well, it wasn't me who personally put the plaintiffs there. But number one, the individual capacity plaintiffs knew. We sent on December 21st, targeted judges sent a letter saying cease and desist, stop this illegal practice, and they disregarded it. That's why it doesn't matter if it was any of these defendants that nominated the 18 plaintiffs. It doesn't matter. What matters is that they choose to maintain them in the list, regardless of the fact that they know they're not terrorists. So they don't want to correct the mistakes that others did before them. And that makes them liable. And also because of all the evidence and testimonies we've been hearing, how there is a financial incentive to illegally place people that shouldn't be on this list. So for many reasons, in their individual capacity, it is our position that they chose to violate the law, and therefore the qualified immunity doesn't apply. Does that make sense?
It certainly does, Anna. Thank you. Thank you for that. I'll have the last question, and then I will let you. Then we'll talk to our special guest. The process of how innocent people, innocent civilians, innocent citizens end up on the terrorist watch list has been addressed in our legal case several times by both plaintiffs and defendants, and various testimonies and government documents. And every time it was a version that contradicts other version. So to end this uncertainty, perhaps it would be in the best interest of the FBI Director Christopher Wray to testify and end this conundrum once and for all. Because if anybody knows what the actual process is, Director Ray would know that. Anna, do you think there's any chance Mr. Ray might want to set the record straight before we set him straight? Anna?
I think it's in their best interest because I'm sure he, a lot of people go into public service because they have a passion, a real desire to serve the country, and he didn't get to that position without having that desire. So it is my hope that, like I said, it's time for atonement and to come clean, because, like you said, for example, we have the former Terrorist Screening Center Deputy Director Timothy Gross saying the following: "Oh yeah, there's some people in that list that don't meet the terrorist criteria, and that's why when they travel, they don't face additional screening, like the known as suspected terrorist." Then you have an audit report by the United States Department of Justice saying that those extra people, which are the Lehman codes 3 and 4, constitute 97% of the list. And the actual known and suspected terrorists are only 0.29% of the list. Then you have an audit report 08-16 by the Inspector General of the United States Department of Justice saying, oh, by the way, number one, there's a lot of non-investigative subjects that should have not been in that list and should be removed from that list. And the FBI is dragging its feet, removing them from the list. And number two, the FBI field officers are sending nominations to the FBI and they don't even comply with their own regulations. That doesn't entail immigration status, like Mr. Gross say. So you have all those versions. And then you have the new version of the whistleblower saying that agents are being financially incentivized to put people on the list. So yeah, all of these lists, all of these versions, they're not the same. It's like, in Sesame Street, one of these is not the same as the others, but they all tend to prove that there is a huge number of people that are innocent, that are not related to terrorism, that shouldn't be on that list. And you have to ask yourself, why are they on the list? And yeah, he should, I certainly hope that, the Christian and the correct and the public service thing to do is to come clean and do Louis Freeh, Director Louis Freeh. I think it was in the year 2003. I'm not sure of the year. He went before Congress and he recognized that with COINTELPRO, they did a illegal, and he said, and probably criminal activity, the FBI. And he apologized for it, supposedly. But the truth is that he recognized the illegality with which the COINTELPRO program operated. That I think it was less than 3% of their activity was legitimate. The rest was illegal. And he can, Director Ray could follow the steps of a former Director Freeh and come clean and admit to this outrage.
Thank you, Anna. Before we proceed with our special guest, I have a special message from the founder of Targeted Justice, Richard Lighthouse. It appears that there's an interference in the electronic payments that when you donate to our cause, to our legal case, and to Targeted Justice, there has been a significant drop in regular donations that you scheduled or donations that you are trying to schedule. And this interference is obviously intentional. It's planned. It is something that we have to deal with. And the message is, if you're trying to set up donation through Patreon or Cornerstone and it's not going through, please don't give up, because we need your help. And just try it again. We don't want you to donate more. We want you to donate exactly as much as you want. Just please understand that The electronic interference is real, and we feel it, and we know it, and the numbers show it. Thank you for listening to this message. And now to our special guest. Derrick, I already introduced you as the founder of PAX International, but I will let you to give us the detailed bio, and please take it away, Derrick.
Okay, thank you, Len, for the invitation and for being here this morning. Appreciate being here with you and Anna and listening to all the details of the lawsuit. It's truly inspiring. And, we at PAX support the lawsuit, and we wish all of you the best in this effort, this major important effort. To introduce myself, I'm Derrick Robinson. I'm president of PAX International. I'm originally from Cincinnati, Ohio. I went to college at Ohio Wesleyan University and Delaware, Ohio, where I majored in speech and theater. And after college, and talking to a friend, I decided, he was a veteran, and I decided that it would be interesting and fun to join the Navy for the adventure. So I joined the Navy in 1975. And for the first 6 years of my enlistment, it was exciting. It was adventurous. I saw many countries, went to Europe, the Middle East, and it was interesting, meeting people in all these various cultures and so forth, and interacting with them. And then around the last year of my enlistment, when I began to get targeted and the organized stalking started, which continues to this day. That was around 1982 or 1983. So we're about 40 years into my targeting. So I've been targeting with the organized stalking initially. Later, around the mid 80s, I started receiving the V2K and the thought surveillance and so forth, which interfered with a lot of my as far as getting employment, socially. I was interrupted. And everything I tried to do in terms of getting a good job and so forth. So for the targeting, I did manage to get employment for about 13 years, and that helped me to stay afloat. So the targeting was really complete obliteration of my vocational goals, my career goals, and so forth. And as many targeted individuals will tell you, everything is compromised, everything is invaded, and it has really impacted my life in many ways, financially, in terms of socially, in every way, it's been impacted. I finally signed on to the internet in 2003, and I was basically in search of former military personnel who might be filing a lawsuit against the government for intrusion of personal rights and so forth. So I searched for that for several months. I didn't find such a class action lawsuit. Finally, around the spring of 2004, I typed in mind control, and that's when I hit the jackpot. And I found dozens and dozens of pages of sites related to organized stalking, electronic harassment, hundreds of testimonies from targeted individuals, posts from from those who have been experiencing very similar scenarios as far as the organized stalking and thought surveillance and things of this nature, same protocols and everything, which was quite, for me, it was like 10 tons of weight had lifted from my shoulder, finding this community and realizing that I was no longer alone. So that was a watershed moment of my life up to that point. And so I began to interact with the community in chat rooms and so forth. And then finally in the spring of 2004, there was a meeting that was to be held in Houston, Texas, organized by a civil rights preacher. His name was Dr. Ed Gillum, Leroy Gillum, I'm sorry. And so I went to that meeting in Houston, which is like the very first gathering of GIs that I was aware of, where we felt that in coming together, we had a chance of somehow becoming free of this targeting situation. So there was a lot of hope at that meeting. And Dr. Gillum, because he was a civil rights leader and because of his position in the community, he began to interact with congressional leaders and go back and forth to Washington, D.C., meeting with senators and congressmen, and the community really, it gave a lot of hope that once Congress was contacted, once these representatives became aware that this covert program was happening, that we would be finally set free. So the reality, though, was that did not happen. We came to realize later how Congress works, and that our issues were not really on their radar in terms of help coming from them. We did not have the clout, we did not have the money, we did not have the celebrity, all these types of things that Congress looks for in terms of assessing who they will help and so forth. So our issues were very low on the totem pole as far as aid from Congress is concerned, and that's still the case today. So originally PAX International, well, let me go back to FFCHS is the original organization. That started in 2005. It was initiated by a lady named Sylvia, who was a native-born Israeli Jew. She was very heavily electronically targeted, and she held meetings weekly for about a month or so, but then her targeting really ramped up, so she began to miss meetings. And I was the closest person to her, and we were connected by the Hebrew language, which I studied in the military. And we were close friends. And so I would take up leading the meetings when she had to miss them. And so I carried on from there. And we've been going ever since. We started an organization called Freedom from Covert Harassment and Surveillance. And that lasted until about October of 2015, when I ran into some problems there with the board. And so left that organization and started PAX International the following year, 2016. And the community supported my efforts, and we just picked up and kept going. So PAX International is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. It was formed to assist and advocate for targeted individuals, and that is those who are targeted with organized stalking and microwave and or directed energy weapons attacks. We have a website where the general public and possible victims can find information about our cause. paxntl.org is our website. And there you can find information as far as what you can do if you find yourself in this situation, and what you can do, what you can do to help the community in terms of advancing our cause, in terms of as far as being recognized, this issue being recognized as a social cause that warrants attention, legislation, and the prosecution of those that are committing these horrendous atrocities against our community. So we have conference calls every week on Mondays and Saturdays where community members can interact and exchange information. We provide a contact line where community members and those seeking information can reach out and speak to volunteers who may assist them in finding solutions to their particular situation. We provide a newsletter every Friday afternoon, Friday evening, where relevant information about our cause and our community is published. We provide a magazine also, which serves as an outreach vehicle with information about our community and our issues. We have social media presence on Facebook and Twitter. We have a television program that we have started, PAX International TV, that is our YouTube channel, and it features members of our community and issues related to our cause. We also help organize local support groups for TIs that live in the same locality for mutual support and activism. We also do outreach to elected officials and the media about our issues to promote awareness of our cause and to create solutions for those who are victims of covert harassment. I would say our most important liaison was with the United Nations a couple of years ago when Professor Nils Meltzer was the rapporteur on torture. And a couple of our members actually gained entrance to one of the United Nations meetings, was able to connect with Professor Meltzer and share with him our situation, the stalking, the harassment, the torture, and so forth. And he immediately pledged his support and help for our cause. And at that time, he pledged that within 2 to 4 years, that this issue will be wiped from the planet. So he stayed with the United Nations for about a year or so afterwards, and then he resigned due to the lack of support that he felt he was getting from the UN. So we've also reached out to his predecessor, and we've not heard back from her at this time. So, but in the meantime, we did submit information to his office about our cause, about our issues, and that information and our letter is still posted at a UN website. So, and we still get calls and emails from people who have seen this letter and are reaching out for assistance. So, so that letter, along with other organizations in our community, their information is also posted at the UN website. So that was a kind of a watershed moment for our cause to have reached those heights of recognition from the United Nations. One of the things we would like to do also at PAX, which is kind of brought to my attention recently, is becoming a United Nations non-governmental organization. So we're looking into starting that project and fusing with the United Nations, which would give us an international platform in which to present our issues. So we're looking forward to to that eventuality, there's a process that is involved, lots of details and so forth. So we're working with Liliana DeLuca Connor on this project. And Liliana, as many of you realize, worked for the United Nations for 25 years. So she would be invaluable in terms of facilitating this process. So we look forward to working with Liliana and joining with the United Nations in that venture. So that should we're hoping that would increase visibility to this issue and magnify our voice. You know, because we need not only a national but an international voice for this cause to be recognized internationally, so that TIs around the globe would also, could also be freed and recognized for the atrocities that are happening and freed from this covert harassment. So governments around the globe are also victimizing their citizens in similar ways. So I believe all this started with the United States, and this technology has been marketed to other countries. It's really an easy sell to governments if they would like to control their populations. So they were readily, this technology was readily received, my opinion though, by governments worldwide. And they have utilized these same harassment techniques on their own people. So we're forming liaisons and coalitions internationally to address this issue. ICATOR is one of those, and I'm vice president of that organization. ICATOR stands for the International Coalition Against Electronic Torture and the Robotization of Living Beings, and that is headquartered in Brussels, Belgium. So, and we're making liaisons with other international organizations of targeted individuals regularly. ICATOR has also partnered with ANA and the ICATOR attorney in legal ways, so that both lawsuits, ICATOR has a lawsuit that it is planning to launch. And hopefully in coordination with ANA's lawsuit, this could increase availability, it could increase importance with this partnership. So the more liaisons that we can make, the better off that we all are, because the perpetrators are nationally and internationally linked, in intricate ways. So we need to do similar and to work effectively with each other in order for our issues to be taken seriously, in order to be our issues to be recognized. And that's really a very important goal for our community, is to become recognized, these atrocities to become recognized for what they are. These are human rights atrocities. These are war crimes against humanity. And so I believe at some point, we will be recognized for the victims that we are in this situation. We also are optimistic, somewhat optimistic about Representative Jim Jordan's committee. His committee was formed to bring whistleblowers forward that could speak to government surveillance and overreach into people's personal lives, and into all manner of government wrongdoing. So it's a federal whistleblower committee, and they encourage and seek out those who can report violations by the federal government in terms of personal civil rights. And this is basically what we are dealing with. And the members of this committee have pledged to champion those civil rights violations that they see are happening with the federal government. So, so that committee is a possible avenue for assistance. They have recognized that what we are experiencing is something that could cause mass panic, is what we were told from Chief Jones. Chief Jones is someone who has direct connections to someone, either to Representative Jim Jordan or someone close to him. He's been able to reach him directly, and with the message that they are willing to address our issues and to bring this information and make it public, but they wish to do so in a way that would not cause mass panic. So it appears that they are aware of the gravity of our situation and what these weapons are capable of doing to a person, and also to a locality. These weapons have wide influence over people and regions. So I think they are aware of the capability that these weapons have, and they are concerned about the implications of the public becoming aware of the full capabilities of what the intelligence agencies have at their disposal. And at this time, they are operating with no checks or balances whatsoever. They have no accountability for what they're doing. But I believe that that dynamic is changing. And I believe that we will start to see those dynamics change as the year progresses, particularly with this lawsuit that that Targeted Justice has filed. If that is successful, if it even survives the motion to dismiss, that will be gigantic for our community, because it would then bring in many other legal challenges that they wish to bring to the government, lots of other cases, other filings that they wish to bring. It would open the doorway to a number of initiatives that they have in mind for our issues. So just surviving that motion to dismiss would be major for our community. And if indeed that this list is declared unconstitutional, which is a possibility, then that would be huge. That would be network news worthy. And I think that we would get major network news attention at that point. So, so we are excited about the developments that are happening at this time. Legally, I think that we are making tremendous advances, and which I think will make a huge difference in our targeting. So I'm optimistic for this year that things are lining up in our favor, whether it's this lawsuit or Representative Jordan's committee, which promises to investigate claims of the whistleblowers, and if they do look into government malfeasance, and they're already aware of our situation, and if they decide to investigate and bring forth legislation, which is Congress's job, which would illegalize these covert activities, then that would be that would liberate all of us, because we would then have the legal standing. Police would be empowered then to to act on our behalf. They would have the legal underpinning to investigate and apprehend and arrest those who are targeting us. Right now, the police are powerless. There is no legislation that governs this weaponry. So there's not much they can do to help. And I really do not advise people to go to police because they will be placing themselves at risk of being hauled away to the psych ward, because the police are not empowered at this time to be of any help to us whatsoever. They can do a lot of harm, but they can't really help us. So I'm optimistic that if legislation is enacted, that would cover us, that would enable police protection, and it would, in essence, stop the targeting. If the perpetrators feel that they are liable in any way, they will stop the targeting. And the only way that will happen is if they are held legally liable for their actions. So that is something that is a possibility probably in the next few months as we look at these committee's actions and with the lawsuit. So we are all optimistic that the tables are finally turning in our favor, and we look forward to the coming months and for our liberation.
Thank you, Derrick. Your story really touched my heart. 40 years of targeting, and I'm just a baby target compared to you. But what the question I have for you, Derrick, one of the messages that the targeted justice, Anna, and all the plaintiffs in the case have sent to our community is the message of unity. I think we have something tangible here. I feel that we are on the precipice of something historic that will change our country forever, not just our community, our country. I think we have a real chance to bring targeting program to the forefront of the public conversation that we desperately need. So I agree totally with you. So would you support the message of unity? And do you have any concerns that could make you hesitant, Derrick?
Well, no, I don't have concerns about unity. I think that would be, if we can unify, I think that'll be a plus for everyone. If we can combine efforts for this issue, we're going to need everybody. What everybody brings to the table is important. You guys bringing a lawsuit and pursuing the perpetrators legally, it's miraculous what you guys have been able to put together. Anna being an attorney, and not only an attorney, but targeted individual, which means that she has a stake in this lawsuit. If we were to hire someone that's an attorney that wasn't targeted, they would be putting themselves at risk, whether they knew it or not. And the attorneys that we have dealt with in the past have suffered as a result of connecting with our community and trying to help us. So they really didn't realize what they were getting into. And when we had our attorney back in 2008, he had his hospitalizations to show for his trying to help. So it's a risk for an attorney, for a law firm to take on a cause. But in your case, Anna is already targeted. So her risk is, it might be heightened targeting in her case, but she is completely aware of the risks, and whatever success that we achieve will be worth it for her, because it will be not only our freedom, but hers as well. So it's a win-win situation.
Thank you, Derrick. I think it's been a really great show. We heard your story, Derrick, heard all your efforts, international and domestic. We heard from Anna with the legal updates. whom I bombarded with my sometimes silly questions. But I think we all deserve a moment of levity. So with that, Anna, please, your final words, and tell us what stood out to you the most today. Anna.
Well, unity, basically unity, because I think thank you, Derek, for being here and for the patience trying to get on, because we had these technical issues, and persevering. That's what targeted individuals are about: perseverance, regardless of what they've done to us. We continue going like the honey badger, and we continue fighting for life and cherishing the great, moments in life. And I think that, I've been talking to Richard about this, and I repeat it all the time, that when we do get to be free, we're going to cherish every minute and treasure it so much more than we did before this targeting, because we're going to truly savor the flavor of freedom. And as to the attorneys, I want to, following on what Derek mentioned, that it's true. People that help targeted individuals sometimes get, illnesses and stuff. But I believe that once we prevail in this lawsuit, what's going to happen is that the program will be declared illegal, and then attorneys will ambulance chase TIs, because their causes of action will be such humongous sources of income, not just for targeted individuals, but also for attorneys. And it is my intent, and I repeat it and I say it, that I will train attorneys in this language, that, and I will put out there all our documents. We will put templates of the lawsuits, so that every targeted individual across the nation gets to have their day in court. And I mean it from the very bottom of my heart, that justice will be done. So it is the unity of this targeted community through, PACs and Targeted Justice and ICATOR. It is this, and Roy, my dear friend Roy Ecobs, it is the unity of this community that makes an invincible front. Together we cannot be defeated, and that's what I say should be the theme for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. That's a great suggestion. Derrick, any final words from you? And please tell us what stood out to you today the most.
Well, I think in agreement with what Anna just said, I think the importance of today is the theme of unity, that, all these elements, community elements, are coming together. ICATOR, Targeted Justice, and PACs, unifying for this cause. And, everyone brings their own talents and abilities to the table, and and everything works in unity as one. And you guys bringing the lawsuits, ICATOR bringing the international community into focus, and as far as PACs is concerned, lots of community support. So everyone brings a certain, their own, everyone brings something to the table that's unique to them, and it's what makes our community work. So I appreciate being here and connecting Len with you and Anna, and I think it was an important liaison today.
Thank you, Derrick. Well, I think we have a consensus. I also agree that the most important message of today's show was a message of unity. So if we can show unity and support within our community, then we can ask for unity and support within the American community for our cause as a whole. regardless of our difference, we all agree that our fundamental constitutional rights cannot be taken away by the government, because the government never gave it to us. A king never gave it to us. We gave it to ourselves. And this is the message that we all can unite under. This is the message I want you to remember from today's show. So I'm calling today's show the message of unity. See you next Sunday, rain or shine.